Hello, folks. My name is Travis, and welcome to this edition of Hope on Wheels. This video is going to have two parts to it. The first is just a thank you. I say that because I checked my channel information, I think Monday, and noticed I am now up to 64 subscribers, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider that I'm by myself, I have a physical disability, that when you get down to brass tacks, I only have one good hand, really, that works well, and I have to do all the editing, things like that by myself. It's astonishing that I have that many, even over 2 years. The other thing is, I am grateful that the comments I've been receiving lately. It's not very many, but the comments I have been receiving is that every video I'm putting out that I get a comment on is extremely helpful. So that means a lot to me that the people that are part of my channel, or at least subscribe to it, find my content helpful, and they really appreciate what I'm putting out. Now, on to the second part of this video. The second part is the main part, and what I'm going to talk about is a topic called dignity of risk. Dignity of risk may sound like a interesting but weird term that some people may know about, and some people may not know about it. The truth is, dignity of risk is something that in which when you're somebody with a challenge, whether it be intellectual or developmental, people, society, and some guardians, and this, please understand what I'm about to say is not meant as a stab towards guardians at all. But people sometimes hear a diagnosis of one type or another, and in particular, family guardians can sometimes understandably be protective. And that's all well and good. People with disabilities do get taken advantage of, and you have to be concerned. Dignity of risk is just something that states, look, going out and trying something new that most of us would take for granted might be a little risky for someone, but it's allowing that person or persons to have experiences and learn from them. And dignity of risk comes into play where as long as the person is not injuring themselves or going to do something that's going to cause injury or be dangerous to others, you let a person try. Some of you may say, well, I do that anyway. And some of you may say, but that somebody with a intellectual or developmental challenge, such as myself, we need to protect them because they're vulnerable. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. We do. But at the same time, we need to give people the chance to grow. And that's where dignity of risk comes into play. Dignity of risk is such that, as I said before, as long as somebody's not going to injure themselves or do something that's going to be harmful to them, or it's something that, they can understand the risk of what may be involved, then you let them try it. Give you a bit of an extreme example here, and I'll use myself. What I mean by that is, when I was real little, let's say around 11, 12 years old, my family and I used to go camping in RV a lot. It wasn't easy for my family to do that due to my inability to get up in the RV without a lot of help, and I couldn't sit in some of the RV seats very easily. I could, but it wasn't easy to do. And one of the things that we used to do is we used to take our all-terrain vehicles, our ATVs, and we used to go to different locations, and we used to go riding. My dad or my mom, usually it was dad, because dad could handle me a little bit more on the bike than my mom could, would get in front of me, tie me to him with a safety belt, um, usually what's called a transfer belt. He would just use one of those, tie me to him so I wouldn't run the risk of sliding off if I had a bump, and I would hang on to him and we would go riding. Well, there's one thing that my dad did once that I will never forget for as long as I live, because it was something I wasn't expecting. I'm glad he did it because it gave me an experience, but this is where dignity of risk comes in. My dad and my mom, both my parents were like this, folks. They didn't, they knew I was challenged. Obviously, I used a wheelchair, but they didn't want me to feel like I was limited, ever. They wanted me to feel like, regardless of what I had to deal with, I could do anything I tried. My dad took me to a pretty flat spot one day with my mom and Cody and everybody in tow. Cody is one of my brothers, and got off the ATV that he was using, which happened to be my mom's in this case. Set it into gear for me because the gear shift out of neutral was by your feet, and obviously I couldn't move my feet very well. Slid me forward, popped it into a gear he thought I could handle, and said, "Go have fun." And keep in mind here, the throttle for that thing is on the side of my body where it's my bad arm. When I say bad arm, I can still use my right hand, but I don't have full control over it. And the throttle is by my thumb, so I literally had to focus on pushing the gas. And I'm spastic. So, some people would say that's dangerous because what if you spasm and you hit a tree or something? It's a risk, but my parents wanted me to experience life and do something that, yeah, it is a little dangerous. But you know what? My parents wanted me to live and have a life. Now, that being said, that's an extreme case. And I have no doubt that some of you are looking at this going, "Oh, great, that kind of thing is all well and good for you, Travis, but somebody with an intellectual disability may not understand or may get into a situation where it's dangerous." Such as, let's say someone doesn't understand the concept of someone being overly social and being social with the wrong person, and the wrong person taking advantage of taking advantage of the person that's trying to just be happy-go-lucky. The truth of the matter is, there is that risk. But as long as the risk is not overly dangerous, sometimes, not all, and you individuals who are guardians of people are going to have to semi-make this determination. Sometimes you just have to let the person take the risk. I know that sounds harsh, but by letting the person take the risk, they learn. Until they take the risk, they're not going to learn. And the next part I'm going to say here, I can just imagine some of my viewers who might be guardians going, "Yes, we get that, but the person that we're a guardian for can't learn those kind of dynamics." Are you sure? Would be my question. I'm not saying you're wrong. Please Don't think that, but I'm just asking, are you sure? I say this because I've seen it before. Sometimes people think somebody can't learn something because of their past track record and they just don't have any evidence proving it to the contrary. That's fine, folks. I get that. But you can practice it. See if they can learn it before they get out into the world. And if there's evidence that they can't, then they can't. I'm not saying that um, protection is a bad thing at all. What I'm saying is dignity of risk. You have to let the person take a chance in life, or a person doesn't grow, folks. All I'm really saying with all of this is don't let a diagnosis or multiple diagnoses, depending upon situations, dictate what you let, if you're a guardian, a person do or not do. Life is life. Guardians aren't always going to be there. And even if, okay, let's say extreme case, even if the person has a state guardian, it's the state guardian may change. Caseloads may change. Things happen. By letting a person learn, then you learn as a guardian or as an individual with a disability what you really need help from your guardian with, too. And as a guardian, the guardian learns, oh, wait, this person's more capable of something. But what you just let them experience was a little risky and a little dangerous. Okay, there's a caveat to this. Let me be clear. As long as the thing that they're wanting to do is not going to be hugely physically dangerous, or I'm saying or twice for a very good reason, is not going to put someone else at mental or physical risk, or themselves again, then let them try it. Especially if someone's around. You can build a support team around a person where the situation that that person's in is risky. But you can have the support team around the person and still let them do it. And then if it gets out of control or starts to, that's where the support team member can step in and say, whoa, not a good idea. But at least the person had the experience. Dignity of risk is also about just letting the person live. You know, give them experiences that could be risky, that could be dangerous, but you don't have to do it where no one's around. You just let a person take a chance and see where it goes. It can be a variety of different things. The foiling thing is a prime example for me. The other extreme example, and again, I'm just using me because I really don't have too many other experiences here with other people where this is a big deal, so I'm going to be clear. I can only really use my baseline as examples in my life. I used to have firearms in my apartment, meaning I own guns. I don't right now because things had changed at a certain point, not where they were dangerous for me, but there was a rumor years ago that legislation was going to get passed where group homes would not allow, no matter what the circumstances are, firearms to be in the home. Truth is, that legislation never passed, but I had firearms. And I used to go shooting for a living. I'm my own guardian, so dignity of risk to some people would not be in play. Well, no, not true. Dignity of risk was still in play because even though I'm my own guardian and the agency that supports me allows me to have that as long as I follow their rules, they still ask, can you be safe? Can you do this? Can you do that? That is dignity of risk, folks. Once I answered yes to those questions and I proved I could do it by being above and beyond their regulations, they let me have the firearms. Now, did I go shooting alone? No, of course not. Never. I went shooting with the staff. And he taught me how to safely shoot. My parents found out I had guns. They didn't say I couldn't have them. They were concerned, especially my dad, who is a gun person, and my brother, Cody, who's a gun person. Uh, they were concerned for me. Rightly so. They're family, and they know what my disability is. But they didn't say don't have them, don't go shooting, don't have fun. I have a video still in my records on my Facebook, and one of these days I might even post that as a video to you guys to show you. My brother took me to the local shooting range in Fairbanks and had me try shooting guns that without his help I wouldn't be able to do. But he knew I could as long as I had assistance doing it. And it's risky, but my family still wanted me to go and have fun. Dignity of risk is going to be different for every single person in someone's life, folks, is what I'm getting at. But dignity of risk is getting to know the person really well, getting to know what they're asking of you really well, what they want to try, and determining, is that something that they can do on their own, that may be a little risky, but it's worth letting them try, or is it something we, as members of this person's support team, can let them try to do with somebody around, and see what happens. Or if you are your own guardian, but you're not sure if you're going to need help to do something, but it could be risky to do it, seeing what your support team feels and seeing if they'll help you. I will tell you that most good care coordinators and most support teams that are really good and really care, which is pretty much every support team I've ever run across, when it comes to individuals with physical and intellectual disabilities, want people to live. And they consider dignity of risk every time something is done, but they don't say no. They usually will say, how can we see if this will work? And then if it doesn't, then obviously it doesn't ever get done again. But you still want to let a person live a life and let them experience things that could be dangerous. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, there are things such as, cliff jumping. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. Forget disability for a second. Cliff jumping is something that I just wouldn't recommend, period. But, those kinds of things, obviously you don't want someone doing. But give you another fun example. My mom, I used to participate in Parks and Recreation's downhill ski program in Fairbanks. My mom didn't know how to downhill ski very well at the time. She learned because I had a coach by the name of Scott Kawasaki that I'll never forget, or Scott Keys, excuse me, that I'll never forget because he taught me and my mom how to ski. And he taught me because I sit skied and he'd used my sit ski before. So he taught me how to be able, even though I'm severely strapped in, to manipulate the sit ski with a tether behind me. Well, he helped my mom learn how to downhill ski, and it became something she loved to do. Here's where the dignity of risk comes in. A bit of an extreme case, but I'm downhill skiing with someone. I've been doing it for several years at this point in my life. I started at the age of 12 or so, on into high school, somewhat. And at this point in my life, I love doing it. It was done at our military base at Birch Hill every year. I was the only one, though, by, early high school age or whatever, that was using the sit ski. Every other participant had stopped going to the program. And I'd become very good and very proficient at being able to use the sit ski, even with my physical limitations. So, a new coach had come out one night to uh, be a part of the program because my friend Scott Keys was the director at that time, and he wanted this new coach to learn how to do things in the downhill mode. So she was my tether one night. Real long story short, things didn't go very well. Uh, at one point, I tipped over because she accidentally overcompensated. Uh, Pulled too hard back on one rope because she thought I was going to lose control. Because I'm in front of her and she can't really hear every little detail I'm saying. So I tipped over. They tipped me back up. I ended up landing on one of her skis. When they did that, I couldn't feel that. I just felt that I was upright. They pushed me off. Her ski came off. Real long story short, I ended up skiing down from the very top of the hill because I didn't go very far the first time, all the way down to the bottom on my own because she didn't have hold of the tether ropes very well. And when she slipped out of her skis, she lost her balance, fell backwards. Because of my ability, in the span of about a minute, I got all the way down the hill. But some people would say, "Oh, that's risky because what if he loses control and he hits a chairlift pole?" Well, I got news for you. I was running the risk of doing that. At the bottom of the hill, I stopped just before the lift pole, and then I tipped over. Matter of fact, the lift chair operator that's at the bottom of the hill came out because he knew me. He's like, "Are you okay, Travis?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He didn't realize I didn't have a tether with me till I got towards the bottom of the hill, because that's usually not supposed to happen. However, I made it to the bottom of the hill. Was it risky? Was it dangerous? Yes. Dangerous enough that even the coaches were yelling, "Tip over, stop, dump." And I tried to stop myself. I couldn't. But, as I think back on it, I'm kind of glad that happened. Dignity of risk is such that, yes, activities that my parents were putting me in were risky in some cases. But it taught me that I can do things, folks, that I have the guts to say, I'm going to do something. Okay? I'll give you another example. I'm afraid of heights. I don't like heights because if I fall, I don't have the trunk start to fall. I don't have the trunk control to stop myself. But I still got on the chairlift in the set ski, got up to the top of the hill, and then got pulled off, let down, and then went back down the hill and back up. I enjoyed it. Is it risky? Yes. But my mom wanted me to live life, and so did my dad. Anyway, I don't want to get too much longer, but this video was just to talk about dignity of risk and what you should consider. And I wanted to give a little bit of backstory to say that I've done some of these things that could be considered risky. I hope this video helps. Have a wonderful holiday, folks, and God bless. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, or you can reach out to me directly at tnoah, N-O-A-H, T as in Travis, at hopealaska.org. Take care and see you next year.